Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to our vegetable garden. As you can see by the way I'm dressed, it is definitely chilly here in Spokane, Washington. We have gotten some hard frost, and that means it's finally time to harvest our root crops. So today we're going to be harvesting the carrots, parsnips, beets, and potatoes, and then I'm going to show you exactly how we store them and where we store them. We use a rather unusual method that has worked really well for us over the years. So let's get started today. The reason I've been waiting for some hard frost is because that causes the starches in the roots to convert to sugars, and so you end up with a much sweeter root crop, which is awesome. So here is the bed that I grew the carrots and the parsnips in. I grew 3 different varieties of carrots in this bed: short stuff Chantenay, scarlet Nantes, and Danvers 126. You can see that the foliage on some of the plants has turned brown because of those hard frosts that we've gotten. Now I might be able to just pull them up just using my hands rather than a tool, and that is my goal. But if it's hard to pull them up, I'm going to have to use a shovel or a spading fork. And of course the risk is always that you might damage the root. And anytime you damage a root crop that you're harvesting, that's something that you'll want to salvage the good parts and use it as quickly as possible because it won't keep in storage. So I'm starting with the short stuff Chantenay. You can see they're a stubbier carrot, but a lot of good eating on there. Holy cow, look at the size of this one. That is enormous. There's another one. And what I thought I would do is, as I pick each row, I'll arrange them on a different bed, and that way you can see the different results. Now the thing that I notice with this variety is that quite a few of the plants tended to want to bolt to seed during the growing season. I'm not sure why, because they shouldn't do that, but they've still produced amazing roots for me. So I'm very happy with how this one's turning out. Now while I'm in between harvesting rows of carrots, I had a few important tips to share with you so that you have great success growing things like carrots and parsnips. In order for root crops to develop those normal roots that we all love to harvest and eat, they need a lot of phosphorus. And if you look at a package of fertilizer, there's 3 numbers on it, and the middle number represents phosphorus. So if that is the highest number on the package of fertilizer, that means it's high in phosphorus. So what I did before I planted this bed was I added some bone meal. Bone meal is an organic soil amendment, high in phosphorus, and it really makes a big difference. You do not want to add a lot of nitrogen, which is the first number on the package, because what it does is it will cause the carrot roots and the parsnip roots to fork and split, and you don't want that to happen. So you definitely don't want to add in any kinds of animal manures. Those would be high in nitrogen, or any package of fertilizer where that first number is the highest. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we were having problems for a few years with the carrot roots actually splitting vertically and just twisting. It was bizarre. And I did a lot of research and determined that we were actually watering them too much. Now I always think with our drip irrigation system that we're not giving the plants enough water. Apparently we were giving them way more than they needed. So once I figured that out, I dialed back the amount of water the bed was getting once the plants had started growing, and that has solved the problem, because this year I'm getting really, really nice looking carrots. Yay! Okay, let's get back to the harvest. Okay, now we're on to the scarlet Nantes row. Wow, look at that. That is a fantastic carrot. These are beautiful carrots. Very happy with them. Golly. We will definitely be sharing some of our harvest with the food bank because these have outdone themselves. I almost grew 4 rows of carrots. I think it's probably a good thing I didn't. Okay, now I am on the 3rd row of carrots. This is Danvers 126. Holy cow, that's a whopper. We've got some little ones over here. Oh, there's, I say little, they're normal size carrots, but compared to the first couple I picked, not so much. I am so happy with this harvest this year. It's been a great year for carrots. And I'm so glad we solved the mystery of why ours were splitting all the way up the root, because boy, once you figure that out, you can grow great carrots. Okay, now it's time to harvest the row of parsnips. That is always a process because the roots usually end up being really long and really strong. So I pulled up what I thought was a carrot in this row and realized, oh, that is a parsnip. So that's what they look like. And they are delicious roasted and in casseroles. So I decided to grow them this year. I've grown them every so often in the past, and I'm always very happy with them. So this variety is Harris Model. I don't like using a digging tool because I always worry about damaging the root, but I'm just going to go very carefully and see if I can loosen the soil. Wow. They are not budging yet, but I sure don't want to damage them. Okay, I had to use the spading fork and the shovel to get this one started. There we go. Look at that. That is a very nice parsnip. Now to tackle this one. This one is really big. So worried about cutting the roots. Okay, ready? That's a whopper. How cool is that? Well, I didn't want to make you have to watch me carefully digging each parsnip up, but here is the harvest. And that's about how many I was hoping for, about 2 dozen, and you can see the roots are pretty impressive. Over on this bed, which I didn't arrange very well, is the Danvers 126 carrots, and let me show you the other 2 carrot harvests. This is the Chantenay that I tried this year, short stuff, and then over here are the Nantes or Scarlet Nantes carrots. And if I had to name a winner, I think I would say that the Scarlet Nantes take the prize because they are very consistent, they're a really nice size, and that is a great harvest. Now on to the beets. Well, I have good news and bad news about the beets. The good news is that it's going to be a very quick harvest, and that's because the bad news is they did not grow well for me at all this year, and I really don't know what happened exactly. It may have been that I forgot to add some bone meal to the bed. I'm not sure what the deal was, but I grew Golden and Cylindra this year as far as varieties go, and I grew them under this agricultural insect netting because Swiss chard, which is also in here, and the beets are both susceptible to leaf miners, and this is a way to keep the adult fly out of the bed so that they don't get to the leaves and cause all the problems. So this is going to be a quick harvest. I'll just open up the cover here, and they're in the back, so they're a bit of a reach. You can see they're very small. This is so disappointing because we love beets, especially roasted in the oven and in salads. But it wasn't meant to be this year, I guess. So this is what I ended up with. Only one golden beet out of the whole bed. That is kind of crazy, so maybe those seeds were too old. And then I did get some nice sized beets, so that's good. But, you know, we'll store these and go ahead and use them throughout the coming months and enjoy them and hope for a much better harvest next year. It's finally time to harvest the potatoes, and this year we're growing two new to us varieties, Elba and Yukon Gem. We chose those varieties because they have special disease resistance, and we thought that would be a good attribute to look for when choosing new varieties of potatoes. You can see that we're growing them in cloth grow bags. Each bag is a 15-gallon size, and what we filled them with over the course of the growing season was a combination of organic potting soil, compost, and some bone meal. Now, all the foliage has been completely frosted, so it's a perfect time to harvest the potatoes. And one of the reasons we like using the grow bags is that when we used to grow potatoes in the raised beds, when we were harvesting them, you know, you can't see where they are, and so we're digging through the beds. And more often than not, we'd accidentally spear one with a spading fork or a shovel. And of course, when you damage a potato, you either need to use it right away or you toss it because they just will not keep in storage. So what we like about the grow bags is that we can just take a bag at a time, empty it out onto a tarp, and see where the potatoes are without having to use any tools and risking damaging those spuds. So let's get started. Wow. Okay. Now, whichever way you grow potatoes, I'm sure you'll agree that harvesting them is the best part of all because it's like digging for buried treasure. So these are the Elbas. You can see how easy this is rather than having to dig in a bed. I think that's it. Okay, that's bag number one. This is bag number two. Also Elba. Lots of earthworms in here. Is that it? Okay, there's number 2. This is bag number 3. Wow. Sorry. This one's got a little top knot. Is that it? Just some little guys. Okay, bag number 3. This is bag number 4. Ooh, that's a nice one. Wow, look at that one. There's the results from bag number 4. There we go. So this is bag number 5 out of 5. Well, the camera battery died right before you could see what the harvest was for that 5th bag. But here is a wheelbarrow full of the potatoes that we harvested from the 5 grow bags. I am very pleased. Okay, now that everything has been harvested, we need to talk about storage. There are some important basics that you need to know about. And I also want to mention that there are different ways of doing this, different places you can store your root crops so that they'll keep well through the fall and winter months. I'm going to show you what works great for us, but first of all, let's cover the basics. You do not want to wash off the root crops. I know you're probably looking at this and going, you're going to store this like this? Well, you don't want them to be muddy. And you don't want them to be wet because that can promote the development of molding, and you don't want that to happen because you'll lose your crops. So what I've been doing while we've been working on the potatoes is letting these parsnips and carrots dry off just from the air, not from rinsing them off at all. And so now what I want to do is just to take some pruners, and I'm going to prune off all but about the top 2 inches of the foliage that is at the top of the parsnips, the beets, and the carrots. And of course all of this will go into our compost pile, so that's good. Okay, it is finally time for me to talk about storing your root crops. And what I'm going to demonstrate to you with some of the carrots applies to the parsnips, the beets, and the potatoes, especially the potatoes. I can't tell you how many gardeners have told me what a game changer this method has been for them. And what we do is the result of many years of experimentation. So let's get down to that next. In my previous video, I mentioned how we store our root crops because I felt that some of you might already be harvesting them and I didn't want you to wait. But when I told you about it, I neglected to mention where we store our bins of root crops. So let's take care of that first. We keep them in our garage, which is insulated but not heated. And I would say it probably stays about 40 degrees during the winter. So not so cold that the root crops are going to freeze and deteriorate, but not so warm that they start sprouting or having different kinds of storage problems. What you can see here is your basic Rubbermaid style bin that has a lid, and I'm going to take some of the carrots that I've prepared for storage and show you exactly how we use the bins. What Bill does is he buys a bale of straw, and if you can find organic straw, that's even better. But I will warn you ahead of time that it's very challenging to find it. But anyway, what he does is he pulls apart some of the bale and he lightly moistens the straw. As you can see, it's not dripping wet, it's just got a slight dampness to it. And so we'll put about 2 inches of it into the bottom of the bin, just like so. Then you're going to put a layer of carrots or potatoes, parsnips, beets, whatever, into the bottom of the bin. Now some instructions say not to let them touch each other, maybe to have them be a couple of inches apart, but I haven't really found that to be a huge problem, especially since we're not keeping it real moist in there. But it's amazing how this lightly dampened straw just generates a little bit of humidity to keep the carrots fresh, or the beets, or the potatoes, or the parsnips. So once you have that first layer in, you're going to put another layer of straw on top. And put in your next layer. Cover that with a couple of inches more of straw, put in another layer of carrots, more straw, and so on, depending upon how many carrots or other types of root crops you have. And then always finish with a layer of straw at the top. Once your bin is full, you're going to take the lid, and rather than snapping it on, which you don't want to do, just put it at a little bit of an angle so that you have a little bit of ventilation going on with the bin. And then you're going to move it to your garage or somewhere that is cool but not freezing and not too warm. Well, it's getting colder by the minute and we have a storm coming, so I need to move all of the root crops into our garage so that they won't get wet. I did want to let you know that we moved the wheelbarrow full of potatoes into the garage for now. We're not putting them into the bins until tomorrow, because that way the rest of the soil that's remaining on the potatoes will dry and pretty much fall off. Then we'll move them into the bins. I hope you found this video interesting, and I have to tell you, it is so much fun growing root crops, eating root crops, and harvesting them is so much fun because you get this lovely surprise of what you've been growing all season long. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. I'll see you next time.